Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Authority podcast. I am once again your host, Ryan Williams. You can find me on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W, and we are here to talk post-draft. My goodness, so much to talk about, but we got to bring up the usual suspects here. We got Ben Cummins in the house, Dynasty Frank in the house, Kevin Steele in the house, and then we're also joined today by a very special guest, Matt Kelley. You can find him on Twitter at fantasy_mansion.
Woo!
You might know him from the playerprofiler.com, putting out good work over there, Roto Underworld podcast. Matt Kelley, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm great. Congratulations on getting Matt Kelley to join your podcast. A-list fantasy analyst joining the Fantasy Authority tonight.
How much
feel
do we
so
pay
lucky.
you, Matt?
So lucky, man.
That check
Congrats.
is gonna. The check will not bounce. I promise.
You are the authority.
Fantastic. Wow.
We are
As you
going
can
to
see,
give
guys, this is going to
authority
be
tonight
lit.
on the Fantasy Authority.
Don't you forget it, brother.
Oh, wow. Yes, Matt has made his presence known here. Want to get into some quick things here, guys, before we touch on what we're here for, and that's post-draft talk. But you guys, we want you guys rating and reviewing the show. We're on iTunes, Stitcher. We also just launched this week, in case you missed it, we are now on Slack. If you want details on how to join our Slack, which is a new chatting app that you can get, it's just for the iOS as of right now, but hopefully they'll roll out something for Android in the near future. You can go to our Twitter at FF Authority and find that it is pinned. We want to see you guys in there. We're talking a lot of Dynasty right now. We got a DFS channel set up. We got a redraft channel set up. All good things. Everybody in the TFA family is in there chatting it up. We might have to get Matt Kelley in there too, since obviously he wants to bring the heat every time he's around. So we could get him in there and talking some fun stuff. But like I said, we are here to talk post-draft, and my, oh my, it was this year. Before we get into the questions that we have here, I just want to get Matt's initial thoughts, because if you know, we had our live shows last week for the first and second day of the draft, and you guys could see those on YouTube, but we haven't really talked to Matt about it. So Matt, what were your initial thoughts of the 2017 NFL draft?
Well, I think we learned once again what we already knew, which was that it wasn't a good draft class. Like, overall, it wasn't a good draft class, period. Even some players we expected to go in the top 10, like O.J. Howard, David Njoku barely went in the first round. So we had some quarterbacks overdrafted, as there are every year. We had the Ezekiel Elliott effect, having a couple running backs overdrafted. And that was about it. The first round was mostly defense. I was covering the first round for Yahoo. Thank God I studied up on my defensive players, or I wouldn't have had much to talk about.
It seemed like the first round was kind of like almost fantasy. Like everybody was trading up for quarterbacks, then running backs. I mean, wide receivers were in the top 10. You had Corey Davis, Mike Williams, Fournette, Trubisky. Like everybody was just. It seemed like there was a lot of trading. Was that just me, or is that a normal? I don't remember it ever being like that.
I believe it was the most trades in a draft in history, I think is what I saw.
Wow. Well, DGAFs.
But those of us that have a 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th pick in Dynasty rookie drafts are deflated after the draft.
Yes.
And we were in hopes of maybe there were enough good landing spots, enough musical chairs were shuffled in just the right way, people sitting in the right chairs and the right teams, that maybe the 7th and the 8th pick would be valuable. No.
Right there with you, man.
Thanks.
I traded the 1.10 for Jamison Crowder like a month and a half ago, and I could not be any more ecstatic about doing that.
The number one overall?
Yeah, that's what I thought you said, bud.
1.10, 1.10.
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
Right.
God.
Yeah.
You're like,
I thought he said
this scoring
the
game,
one
this guy, who
over
needs him? He's only.
I was thinking to myself, is somebody going to break it to Ben that he got there, or because I wasn't going to do it?
Yeah, let me say it like that, 1.10. Yeah, I could not be more ecstatic about that. Just like you said, you start to get into that second half of the first round, and I tweeted, just throw out, consensus ranks out the window because everybody's going to have a different flavor. But it's like you said, after, the first couple there in the first day started to get very, very dicey right away. So I agree with you.
Did you see what I got in the Dynasty Podcast League? Are any of you in the Dynasty Podcast League with me?
I do not think so.
Well, there's a whole Dynasty League that's only for Dynasty League podcasters. And if TFA is not included in this, then you need to talk to the right people, get in the right clicks. I don't know, maybe burn some bridges over there. I mean, I've burned as many bridges as you can possibly burn, and I'm getting invited to this league. So you can also find a way into this league. It's a very fun league. I traded the 110, I believe it was, for Marquise Lee, Kenneth Dixon, a second rounder next year, and a third rounder this year. So to me, that was easy, but it was also super flex. So someone wanted to trade up for a quarterback. So when you're in super flex, it makes those first round picks in the second half of the first round a little more valuable because the quarterbacks will push out some of the talented players. But still, I was like, auto accept. Thank you. Just get me out of here. Get me off this pick.
Nice bundle of assets.
Yeah, man.
You got there.
And it just seems like that, after even in the beginning, let's get into the draft here. I mean, we pretty much, I didn't really buy in that quarterback at 1. So we get Myles Garrett going number 1. And then we have one of the guys who a lot of people were talking about, drafting in the 102, 103, 104 range, and Leonard Fournette ending up in the Jaguars. Was it, even from a real football life standpoint, was it smart for the Jaguars to go out and get Fournette there at that pick, knowing, and we talked about this on our running back prospect shows, that it just doesn't seem right to take a running back that early. There's so many other positions in need that you could go after. Seems like a waste of draft capital there. How do you guys feel about that?
They unfortunately believe that they're set at every other position with the exception of offensive line, but there were no offensive linemen that justified a top 10 pick in this particular draft. I disagree. I think if you are really intent on running the ball, that you could justify drafting someone like Forrest Lamp, who will be one of the league's better guards when it's all said and done, at pick 10, 11, 12, but not top 5. Again, you never pick a guard with the top 5 pick. Okay, fine. That's fine. But this idea that you don't just simply pick the best defensive player available in most cases whenever there's a question is foolish to me, because so many defensive players get hurt every year. There's so much turnover on every single defense. I mean, name me the defense that doesn't experience at least one major injury to every position group. It happens every year to every defense. You can never have enough elite corners, right? You can never have enough elite edge rushers, outside linebackers. So when one's available, you have to draft him. So in this draft at slot 4, Marshawn Lattimore was there. You had players of Marshawn Lattimore's ilk, which are checks all the boxes. Essentially, the Myles Garrett of the cornerback group was available at 4, and you're taking a running back in today's NFL where pass to run ratios are skewing heavier and heavier to the pass every year, and you're taking a between the tackles grinder. You're taking a player that'll help you win football games in 1992. Big mistake. Well, that's what happens when you have a coach from 1992. Tom Coughlin gets in a time machine in 1992, and he shows up in 2017, and he's like, oh, number 4 pick overall. Let's take Leonard Fournette, the big grinder running back. Excuse me, Tom. So it's 2017 now. So you don't ever take that player at that position with a top 5 pick ever. That's not what we do now. It's a different sport. I'm sorry that you are essentially a musty, mummified relic of a time gone by. I mean, he has the gauze from the mummy wrap, trailing under his khakis at this point. And that's what you saw with Leonard Fournette.
I think
sometimes when these teams turn over and they bring in new leadership, it's fresh, like what's happening with Cleveland. But Jacksonville decided to bring in old, musty, stale dude that's just going to try to win football games the way they used to. And it's just an awful pick.
We need to praise Tom Coughlin, okay? He was instrumental. He was the coach of the New York Giants who single-handedly ruined a perfect New England Patriots season. So for that alone, he should a monument should be erected of him.
That's right.
So
Monuments, exactly. To times gone by, coaches of the past. He belongs on a monument. He doesn't belong on a sideline in 2017.
I agree. I'm not denying that, but I think we got to give him a little bit of respect here. All right, just a little bit of.
I will not. I will not give Tom Coughlin my respect. It was a terrible hire.
It was
a draft pick.
It was a terrible. See. They needed a quarterback. First of all, they needed a quarterback, and they weren't gonna pick a quarterback at 4. So
right, they should have picked DeShone Kizer with the second pick in the draft in the second round. They blew it in the second round too. Jacksonville blew this draft.
They blew it.
Yeah, they blew it. There's a bunch of teams that blew it. I mean, obviously the Bears blew it. I mean, there's a lot of teams blew it because a lot of teams are incompetent with their front office, and they're the best interests of the front office and the coaching staff are in conflict with the fans and the ownership because they're trying to play for today and they're trying to jettison assets in the future to save their jobs, and they're burning the franchise in the process. That's happening in Houston. That's happening in Chicago. And in Cleveland, they're doing it differently. They're doing it better.
Not in Cleveland, right?
But now let me ask you guys.
They're building the team the right way.
Right. Now, Matt, let me ask you. All right, so at 4, you did not like the pick. But let's say they picked Fournette at 20.
Pick, but not in real football terms, because you always have to think of it in terms of value over replacement. When you can get Marlon Mack in the 4th round, the fuck are you doing drafting a running back in the 1st round?
Right.
There is so much running back talent in this league. That's why they're so inexpensive to sign as free agents. You want to pick the guys that are at the coveted positions to help you stop the pass. That's the priority. Either help yourself
or
better at passing,
and Fournette does not fit either
stop
one.
The pass. That's the goal. Right. That's why Lattimore was the pick in that spot, or an edge rusher, anyone essentially, but a running back or a quarterback.
Left tackle, right tackle, defensive end, cornerback, those are the premium positions, right? And you have mentioned Marshawn Lattimore multiple times. And Leonard Fournette.
It was an awkward draft because there were no offensive linemen that anyone could justify in the top 10. It did squeeze a lot of these teams that really needed offensive linemen and force them to do some weird things. And that's what you saw with this number 4 pick.
Exactly.
Do you think that Ezekiel Elliott's success last year getting taken early played a part in them feeling confident in taking Leonard Fournette? Like it would cover some of it up because of how successful Ezekiel Elliott was last year. Obviously, 2 totally different situations, but
yeah, think about it. Derrick Henry was a 2nd-round pick last year. That's what I'm talking about. You can get a Derrick Henry level talent in the 2nd round most years. You just couldn't this year because of this Ezekiel Elliott effect. It absolutely is a thing. It's real. I mean, Leonard Fournette is not Ezekiel Elliott, but they went at the same draft slot. So that's it. This is also
and like I've said, the situations aren't the same. So,
so we're going to follow this under a bad fantasy landing spot or a good fantasy landing spot for now.
Oh, in fantasy, I was going purely real life in putting my GM hat on. In fantasy, it's okay in that he doesn't have competition. So that's great. He doesn't have competition for touches. He doesn't have a satellite back there to compete with in the passing game. So he will be the every down guy. Remember, on Jacksonville, had 19 receptions one season, and in the other season where he only played 7 games, was catching 2 passes per game for a very anemic offense. So he had a high target share in LSU. He's a better receiver than he gets credit for. But so it's not the receiving that I'm worried about. It's the fact that they can't run block, and they don't have many red zone visits. And if Tom Coughlin's idea of running an offense is to limit mistakes and slow the game down, that means less possessions, that means less plays, that means less carries, less yards, less touches, less red zone visits for Leonard Fournette. So he's in an inefficient offense with a bad run blocking offensive line. That's not a recipe for fantasy RB1 status. So I don't think he's an RB1 because he landed in Jacksonville. If he landed on a different team, like the the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, yeah, I would love Leonard Fournette. There'd be an argument for him to be
Oakland.
Or Oakland, of course, the number one pick in dynasty leagues.
Right.
It's a legitimate conversation between Fournette and Corey Davis. There's no longer a conversation. It's absolutely Corey Davis, hands down, easy windmill slam.
Yep, I agree with that.
So when we're talking about, how this draft went, and I heard you mention Cleveland in there, Matt. It just felt like Cleveland run the draft. And for everybody out there who's listening, if you're not familiar, so they took Myles Garrett with the first pick. Then they traded down. They got Jabril Peppers, the safety out of Michigan. Then they got David Njoku in the first round as well, too, addressing the tight end position. And then come back in the second round and take Kaiser. I mean, it just seemed like they were doing everything, by the book. They just went in and were we're sick of. Yeah,
it was
ahead,
like they had the draft. Honestly, this is what happens. It was like they had a time machine, and they went forward a year or a day. They went ahead in time a day. They got the newspaper that had the draft on it, and they brought it back a day. That's how good their draft was.
Yes.
That they cheated. It was essentially like they had a cheat code for the draft because you can't do what they did. It's in reality, it's not possible.
It's not. You can't have 3 first-round picks and on top of that, walk away with the first next year that you acquired in what you did and get a potential franchise quarterback if Kaiser pans out on top of all that. It doesn't make any sense. They destroyed it.
No, they had the best draft in the history of the NFL draft.
I'm not going to argue that. I'm not.
No,
I've studied every draft. I've studied
anyway.
every player from every draft. Have everyone committed to memory since the inception of the NFL. The Browns have the best draft of all time, and it's not close. It's a wide margin.
Yeah, and people have brought up, maybe some of these guys don't pan out. It's about the process and what they did more than if every single guy pans out, because we can't see into the future unless you are Cleveland and what they were able to do with the draft, like you brought up.
Well, positional value is important. So we talk about, first and foremost, you want players that will help you pass for yards or stop passing yards from happening. Pass for touchdowns or stop passing touchdowns from happening, number one. Then you want to focus even more on the positions that have the highest scarcity. So you want impact positions with the highest scarcity. Well, that's edge rusher, right? Those are the freelancers in the secondary. That's quarterback, right? So when you think about the position they drafted, that's what they got. Myles Garrett, edge rusher. Jabril Peppers, freelancer, and the all-purpose. He can play every position in the secondary player. And they got Deshaun Kaiser. Now, the one that's not included in there is tight end. But we talked about the quality of this draft. Well, tight end was the best position group in this draft. It was the one position group in this draft where it was stockpiled with talent, and where it was very anemic across most of these other position groups. Tight end was stacked, just so good. So they cherry-picked their guy from the strongest position group, and then they picked the best of the scarce assets that help you win football games in these other slots. And then on top of all of that, they were able to get more draft picks in the future. I was speechless watching it all unfold.
Totally.
Actually wasn't, because I was analyzing it at the time. But in my mind, I was like, I should be speechless right now. I'm talking. I get it. I'm talking because they're asking me to talk, but I should be speechless right now.
Love it.
So good. It was such a good draft. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at the draft right now, and I can't believe it. I can't believe it's real.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And so let's pivot here, because you have a team in the Browns who utilized the draft to their advantage. They used, 10 picks in the draft to build their team for the future. Then you bring in a team like the Patriots. You look at their picks. They have 4 draft picks this year. They use them all in the trenches. 2 third-rounders. They bring in Derek Rivers and then Antonio Garcia, offensive or D tackle out of Troy. And then they take another D end, edge rusher. And then with their last pick in the 6th round, they take Connor McDermott, the O tackle out of UCLA. I mean, what does that say about the Patriots? And Frank, you might have to sit this one out. What does it say about the Patriots that they can just go into a draft, select 4 times, and think that they're great for the next incoming season?
Well, the Patriots are the only team that has a case for winning this draft, because while the Browns can say, well, we had the best draft of all time in terms of prospects, that's true, but the Patriots actually turned prospects into proven performers, which is what we do in dynasty leagues.
Yep.
So the Patriots acted like a very savvy dynasty owner, trading picks in a bad class for proven performers. Coney Ealy, the linebacker from the Panthers, and Brandon Cooks from the Saints.
I don't understand how teams let them.
Yeah,
were allowed to do that. Like, why would you do that?
That's not possible either. I don't understand. Like, what kind of snake-like
voodoo? What did
Frank? You sound like the rebuilding dynasty owner. The dude that won the league last year just, acquired a ton of solid production
for nothing.
Dynasty, and you're upset about it because now they're going to win the league again. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, no, you're not going to believe this fact. You're not going to believe this fact. So I went through this whole value grading system based on all the factors I talked about before, the position scarcity and treating the impact positions differently. And do you want to know? You'll never believe this. The player that after the draft was over that I identified was the best value pick in the entire draft.
Mike Gillislee.
Just based on his college resume. No, prospect. Based on his college resume and based on his athleticism at the combine and based on where he was drafted.
I'm going to guess it's somebody that went to New England.
His name's Derek Rivers from Youngstown State. I mean, they got the best pick in the whole draft. It was incredible. Derek Rivers led all of college football in tackles for losses and sacks last year. He was the second most prolific edge rusher outside of Derek Barnett from Tennessee, who broke Reggie White's sack record while he was there, except when they went to the combine, Derek Rivers was much more athletic than Derek Barnett. So Derek Rivers had a case to be a first-round pick. I had him graded as a first-round pick in my process. And the fact that he went in the third round to the Patriots was just hilarious.
Oh, man. I actually heard you talking him up pre-draft. I didn't even make the connection that he ended up going to the Patriots. That's insane. On top of all the proven production they got, unbelievable. Yeah, they destroyed this draft. Absolutely destroyed it.
I feel bad, man. If you don't like the Patriots, you just have to hope and pray that the Cleveland Browns can get good as fast as possible. It's almost like the Patriots are the empire, and the Browns are the resistance, the rebels.
I love it.
So we need to put all of our hopes and prayers in the Cleveland Browns that they can rise up
or the New York Giants
Hoth and defeat the empire. That's why I'm such a Browns fan now.
I'm with you, man. I'm rooting for him.
I hate him.
All right, so we can get into fantasy landing spots for some of these guys.
Yes,
it seems like some of these guys landed in really great spots. Some of the other guys landed in spots where you're kind of left scratching your head. I don't know what to do with this. So let's just start it off with best and worst landing spots here. Let's go into the best landing spots here for the first 3 rounds. This is either from a redraft or dynasty perspective. Ben, we're going to start with you. Who do you think had the best landing spot here from either rounds 1, 2, or 3 in the NFL draft?
Yeah, we don't have to start with controversy. We can get into that a little bit later. Matt already talked about Corey Davis being the unanimous 1.01 in rookie drafts. I absolutely agree. So I'm going to go there. Number 5 overall pick, premium draft capital, walks into one of the best situations for immediate opportunity and long-term opportunity going to play with Marcus Mariota, one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. The one thing that I'll say, though, the best offense in terms of pure volume over the last 2 years, the Titans, since Mariota came in the league, the Titans have thrown 1,055 passes, which averages out to 33 a game. And if you look at the Saints, and I know that's like, the upper echelon, but they've thrown 1,341, which averages out to 42 a game, which is a difference of 9 a game. So it's not, 100% slam dunk. He's walking into like a Michael Thomas volume situation, but there was more mouths to feed last year with Michael Thomas. There's not as much there for Corey Davis. He was the best wide receiver in this draft, and he goes to the best situation.
Frank, what about you?
Am I going with my guy or am I opining on Ben's Corey Davis? Because that was fantastic. That's definitely the one-on-one. My guy is Mixon, Mr. Joe Mixon in Cincinnati. Now, this player, let's never mind off the field. On the field, he is that perfect blend of film. Like, you cannot not watch his film and not think that this player is awesome. And then you look at his metrics. I mean, everything about Joe Mixon, to me, he would have been, and to everybody else, he would have probably been the running back one if it wasn't for off-field issues. He goes into a spot where Jeremy Hill sucks. If you just check out the TFA account, there's a little Twitter account. There's a little goodbye to Mr. Jeremy Hill, and he can basically do what Gio Bernard does. So I think Gio is going to spell Joe Mixon. If anything, I love Joe Mixon. I love him here. Just go to playerprofile.com and you can check out his metrics. How you like that, Matt? Huh? His spark is in the 76th
percentile or above across the board.
Everything.
Yeah, and because of Pirine, he wasn't as dominant as he could have been. But 15 touchdowns when you're splitting snaps. How did he do that?
I mean, his best comparable player is Ezekiel Elliott. Like,
Yeah. He
could
got
just
15 touchdowns without getting the goal line work. Like, that's a riddle.
It's like he's a beast. He's a piece of shit, but he's a beast. So that's my guy.
And he's pretty much just as good of a pass catcher as Christian McCaffrey, which is saying a lot.
Right.
Well,
McCaffrey's a beast.
I mean, come on. Christian McCaffrey, come on. Please. He's not that good.
No, he's not that good.
He's not that good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's in the next tier. He's in the Mcnichols tier of pass catchers with Kamara. Yeah, he's great.
I can dig that.
Yeah. No, you can't do McCaffrey's never.
Yeah.
Never compare people
Oh,
to McCaffrey.
I love McCaffrey.
You can't.
Oh, yeah.
No, there's
Best
no
running back.
comparison.
Back. Hold the tears back, Ben.
I love McCaffrey. I hate worry, but never mind. Let's move on.
No tears. 1.02 for me. McCaffrey.
How about Ryan? What's Ryan have to say?
Well, so I think mine's gonna be John Ross, and it comes from a play. When this happened live on the show, I said that I really like the pick. I think he's one of those head scratchers, but to me, he goes into a situation there where who is the wide receiver 2? I don't really trust that. I think he has an opportunity to take that. Tyler Eifert, he's been banged up. You don't know how healthy he's going to come back. And I still think that they're making up for the that was left by Marvin Jones leaving, that was left by Mohamed Sanu leaving. There's so many catches there to be had that I think this guy could be, really good in that offense when we know Andy Dalton still got a couple of years left and he's going to throw the ball. So that's my guy there that I think.
What about you, Kev?
Kevin here? Kevin.
Kev's not here. Kev's not here.
He's watching the baseball game.
Kevin's pick was David Njoku, and I think he's wrong about that because David Njoku went to the Browns. I'm not sure Kevin knows that the Browns don't have a quarterback yet. I mean, Kessler could be better than expected. Kaiser could be better than expected, but you don't want the fourth receiver because you have to consider Duke Johnson, their third receiver. The fourth receiver, the rookie tight end. That's not that exciting. Sorry, Kevin, you're wrong.
What do you got to say, Kev?
I think Matt's wrong on that take. I
thought you were at a baseball game.
Who watches baseball? I was watching the NBA. Sorry.
Oh well, I didn't. I thought you weren't here. I wouldn't have disagreed with you to your face. I only like to disagree and in the comfort
Didn't
of it.
even let Kev state his case first too.
Hey,
I love David Njoku. This is coming from someone who's complete and utter David Njoku fanboy. I think David Njoku's ceiling is best tight end in the NFL.
Yes.
I mean, I love that it says Travis Kelce on his best comparables. So
Yeah, 10 yards after the catch per reception. That's another riddle. How did he do that? I mean, he's so good.
I mean, he's going to get a lot of love in Cleveland. He has to. Who else is there? I mean, Corey.
No, they have Kenny Britt and Corey Coleman. So
Coleman.
I think there's actually
Kenny Britt's GOAT.
not going to be a significant target share for him unless you think about Kaiser as the quarterback and the narrative of, the rookie quarterback needs to check it down to the tight end, but I think he's going to check it down to Duke Johnson. So I think there's a little bit of sort of target zone overlap between Duke and Njoku, and I'm just not investing in tight ends. As much as I love Njoku, I can't justify investing in tight ends this early in their career. It rarely pays off.
Well, obviously they cut Barnage, right? Like right after they drafted him. So that's at least one positive sign that he's going to be on the field at least right away, you would think.
The Gary Barnage era was hilarious. I mean, a guy named Gary Barnage was a tight end one in fantasy. That was amazing. I love that. I mean, his name's Gary. Hey, Gary.
And then it was almost as funny where he was being drafted the year after when Robert Griffin III was going to be throwing him the ball. That was pretty good too.
Yeah. No. Yes. It's okay. My favorite landing spot's Alvin Kamara, who also has a funny name. Alvin! Right? You can see Drew Brees screaming at him when he drops a pass. Alvin!
Oh, Sean Payton. He's gonna hate him. He's gonna end up hating Alvin Kamara like he hates Mark Ingram for some reason.
He just needs to hold it on the Al part. Alvin! Right? It has to really. It's just the way you pronounce it, the way you enunciate. But I mean, we're looking at landing spots, right? So here's a cheat code just for everyone in the audience in case you're new to fantasy football. So how we do this with landing spots is if you go to the Saints, then you have the best landing spot. Like, that's how fantasy works. See, fantasy football isn't hard. You just see, okay, who went to the Saints? Okay, that's the best landing spot. And then you go on with your life. Fantasy's really actually very easy to do. I don't even know why we have so many podcasts, or why so many people are tweeting spreadsheets. It's very simple.
Draft Saints, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything more to say. He catches passes. He had over 35 receptions last year, and then he went to the Saints. I mean, check, please. I
agree with you, man. I was tweeting about this today. I mean, Sean Payton moved up to get him, right? Gave up a second-round pick next year to get him. And, the GM, I believe Scott Barrett was tweeting, they're already talking about him filling that Darren Sproles role, that Reggie Bush role. And, it's just funny to me that the same people that were saying that Adrian Peterson was washed before the draft now aren't very interested in Kamara after because the backfield is crowded when they don't do anything similar at all. Obviously, Kamara is not going to run the ball that much as a rookie because those two backs are there. But in PPR, we're talking about this dude having the potential to be a factor immediately with pass out of the backfield. I don't really think that Cadet is keeping this dude off the field with the draft capital that they put into him.
Cadet? Travaris Cadet?
Yes.
He's still on the roster at this point.
I believe they re-signed him, but again, I don't think it matters at all.
Not for long. Yeah. Travaris,
that's the thing.
If you're listening to this show, bye-bye.
And that's the thing. Travaris Cadet, I mean, it was volatile from week to week, but that dude was seeing playing time. So you mean to tell me that Kamara's not going to be on the field a lot in passing situations and catching passes in PPR?
They don't have Hightower anymore.
This dude is going to be relevant year one. So, the people that I disagree with putting him middle of the second round because, it's a crowded backfield when he's the pass catching specialist.
Oh no. He's absolutely a first round pick in Dynasty now that he's on the Saints.
Yeah.
No, that's not a question. I mean, this isn't a good class. Okay. I always have to preface it by saying, okay, I get it. This isn't a good class. Given the fact this isn't a good class, Kamara was a first rounder.
Yeah, man. And, you love to talk about take lock, right? I think this is one.
You have to understand, I don't like Kamara. I do not like this guy. Okay. I don't like him, but I'm also a rational actor. I like to win Dynasty League championships, and I don't do crazy things like see a New Orleans Saints player on the board who's going to receive targets and not fucking draft him.
That's exactly right. I think people are getting stuck into take lock with this one.
It's not hard, people.
The negatives before the draft, but landing spot means everything. And like you said, he's on the Saints. End of story.
Yeah, no, and I mean, if you like to lose, then please, by all means, keep your biases, the same way before the draft after you see where guys land. But once you see where a guy lands, you have to be able to change your mind. Isn't that right, Kev? Kev's done that.
Yes, he's changed his mind plenty of times.
I don't know what NBA game's going on, but
I know he's got a lineup. He posted a lineup in the DM in the group chat, and he's so certain he's going to win 100K right now. So he's studying, doing something.
Since Kev's night's going to be so positive, we should probably get a little negative here with worst landing spot.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's such a degenerate. Let's get into the worst landing spot here. And Frank, I kind of thought that would be a good segue here because this is a guy who I think you're going to talk about who Kev has flip-flopped on.
Right. And that's Mike Williams. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Mike Williams. I think he's a talented player. I just don't like him on the San Diego Chargers. I still like Keenan Allen. I know everybody hates Keenan Allen. I love Keenan Allen. I love Keenan Allen. Oh, he's always injured. Like they hate him. Like
he's always injured. When he had a lacerated kidney,
I know,
and he blew out his ACL.
Two injuries that have no correlation whatsoever.
Gave his kidney for football fans. Thank you, Keenan Allen.
Exactly, but people hate him.
ACL like everybody does. What the hell?
But Matt, that means we can predict he's going to get injued again, right?
Isn't that how that works? He's injury prone. # injury prone. So they hate him. I still like Tyrell Williams. He blew up last year. I stashed him everywhere the year before because I just in case Tyrell Williams. So Mike Williams,
you're exposing yourself as being biased with this pick now.
Yes, I am. I'm being biased.
Jesus, Frank.
I just don't see. I just don't see. Maybe this year. I just don't see it. I just don't see. I think they didn't need to draft a Mike Williams there. I think they could have another pick, another player. I don't know.
It was the worst pick in the draft. It was the worst pick of the draft by far. I mean, I was stunned when they picked this guy because they don't need a wide receiver. And according to this value proposition that I was talking about, I mean, his value proposition was very low because, again, it's very easy to run these equations in your head. Last year, why are you taking Ezekiel Elliott in the second round when you can get Derrick Henry in the middle of the second? Why are you drafting Ezekiel Elliott in the first round in the top 5 when Derrick Henry is going to be available in the second round? You just don't do that. You don't draft a Mike Williams when a very similar wide receiver is available in the second round in Juju Smith-Schuster. You're not getting any value there, and you don't even need that position. They ended up drafting 2 safeties later in the draft. Why not just take Malik Hooker and get an elite safety? I mean, again, what's going on?
I didn't get it either. It was just weird.
When you're in a position where the Chargers were with these clear needs on defense and the 7th pick, it becomes an auto pick at that point, and then you just throw a curveball and you blow it. It's almost like they were tilting, taking Mike Williams. It was a tilt. They were tilting.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Right. Well, we talked about the difference between real football and fantasy football all night. I mean, again here, I tend to agree with you that it was a redundant asset, but I'm sure dynasty owners of Phillip Rivers aren't complaining.
Right. I mean, Phillip Rivers is the winner. Congratulations. And Tyrell Williams now has to beat out a player who he's much more athletic than. We'll see if he can do it. So Keenan Allen's much more efficient.
Easy.
And Tyrell Williams is much more athletic. And Travis Benjamin's much faster. So Mike Williams is going to struggle to find a role in this offense. I mean, a guy that was drafted to look a lot like Mike Williams last year went to an even softer depth chart in Minnesota, and he couldn't figure out a role. So we'll see.
Right. Ryan, I think your choice is going to make Matt pretty happy here too, if I had to guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, my choice for the worst landing spot here is Cooper Kupp. And when we talked about him on the receiver prospect show, I thought maybe if he landed in a good spot, I thought that this guy, he might be able to put some production up down the road. But he lands with the Los Angeles Rams, who have a plethora of wide receivers who all just are small and do the same thing, with a quarterback in Jared Goff, who I don't the ball, at least not for fantasy purposes. So Cooper Kupp, I think, is going to just get buried in the depth chart here. Maybe, somewhere down the road, he could be of somewhat of value, but I just don't see it. He's 6'1", 198, and they play in a tough division with defense. This kid is not going to be good for your fantasy team. So please avoid him at
Cooper Kupp,
all
dude.
costs.
No, honestly, fuck Cooper Kupp. The reason why I do not like Cooper Kupp is that he thinks he's really good. And this bothers me. For some reason, I don't know why. I don't know. I've never felt this way. I've never felt this visceral hatred of a player. I don't actually hate players. In fact, I've always lashed out at people saying, "Oh, I hate this player." You don't hate the player. We hate the value sometimes. Guys overdraft. We don't like how much we pay for him. We don't actually hate the guy. These guys are gladiators. They're destroying their bodies for our entertainment. We can't hate them. We admire them, if anything, but not Cooper Kupp. I don't like it.
I'm still just in shock of where he went in the draft
he's
over Godwin and some of these other guys, but that's another story.
Somehow fooled the NFL into thinking that he is this Chris Godwin level prospect when he's not. He's a poor man's Chad Hansen that went to Eastern Washington and compiled huge statistics. He was a compiler, and he just stayed in school to pad his counting stats. That's why he got drafted. He had great counting stats. And congratulations at Eastern Washington. They ran the whatever gimmick garbage offense, and you were the one soaking up all those slant routes and taking them for touchdowns. I mean, congratulations. I mean, that's really going to work against NFL defense. No, it's not. Ever.
Right, no, and a lot of his touchdowns came in the red zone for Eastern Washington too, and it's like I'm not trusting that the Rams are going to be down there
in the red zone. Even Senior Bowl practices against no defensive players. I mean,
right? Because that's the entire evaluation process.
What is this? I mean, this whole evaluation process of Cooper Kupp was just so mind-numbing to me. It just made me it infuriated me. So what happened, I started conflating my hatred of draft Twitter with him. He started being the poster child for the incompetence of draft Twitter and all the things I dislike about football analysis. Like, he just became this shining light at the top of this evil empire that I just wanted to tear down. I wish bad things to happen to him. He wears Spider-Man pajamas under his jersey. He's just so lame.
Douchey. He's a douche.
He's just so lame.
That's a real thing.
Dude. Like, he's a corny.
He really wears Spider-Man pajamas underneath his uniform.
Good. And I'm like, do you know what a good receiver looks like? Do you know how good Chris Godwin is? And Chris Godwin wasn't at the Senior Bowl because he didn't need his senior year. He came out as a junior when grown-ups come out, Cooper.
Yeah, I didn't know he wore Spider-Man pajamas underneath his uniform. That's crazy.
I made that up, but he looks like he
does. Okay.
He looks like he does.
I really wanted it to.
He's very serious about it. He has this whole. I think he has this whole regiment in the morning.
I really
where he
wanted
puts
it to
on
be
the
true.
Spider-Man pajamas, and then he has a cup of hot cocoa, and he's just like the J.J. Watt of wide receivers.
Right. I can see that.
And I just want to just hold him upside down by the ankles over a cliff and just shake him until he cries.
Well, now that we talked about an overrated,
you don't think like the.
Go ahead, Kev.
I was gonna say still, I've seen on like Twitter where people have said like he could be Jordy Nelson or Eric Decker. You don't think that's the range of outcomes?
No. Here's the beauty of it. Here's the beauty of it. He's the reason why advanced metrics exist. I mean, the reason why we have advanced metrics is so you're not fooled by the Senior Bowl and you're not fooled by counting stats. That's why we have College Dominator. His production,
or race-to-race comparisons.
Amazing. 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns. I get it. 21 touchdowns as a freshman. I mean, just truly amazing. But why is he redshirting at Eastern Washington? Who the hell redshirts at Eastern Washington? Why do you feel the need to redshirt? He comes out at age 24 with a late-ish breakout age. His Dominator was actually not even in the 80th percentile because they ran that spread attack. That whatever they call it, attack, this pistol spread or the air raid offense that they have. His video game counting stats didn't even account for 80% or didn't even account for just over 40% of the overall receiving yards and touchdowns for the team, which was below the 80th percentile. So he wasn't even in the class of the elite prospects that we see coming from small schools. So the production was fake in that way. When you look at his production relative to the other players on his team, when you essentially adjust for the offense that he was a participant in, and then when you factor in athleticism, under the 10th percentile burst, so he has no burst. His 4.62 40 time? Get out of here. So his height-adjusted speed score, because he's only 200 pounds, was relatively low. His burst score was negligible, and he had great agility. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that type of player is? That's Austin Colley. That's Jared Abbrederis. That's the exact profile of those guys. And I'm not just saying white wide receivers, because I don't comp just white guys to white guys. For example,
why not?
Christian McCaffrey, all of his comparables are black. Every best comparable for Christian McCaffrey is black.
Shady McCoy.
Carter, it's Brian Westbrook. It's Reggie Bush. It's Duke Johnson. Across the board, all black. Look at Cooper Kupp, all white. And none of them are very good.
Yeah, man. I was shocked he was a 3rd-round pick. I thought he'd be like a 5th-round pick at best.
Well, he was Mayhawk's
It was a 1st-rounder.
Yeah, Mayhawk had him as a 5th wide receiver.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, and Steve Smith also said that he was the steal of the draft. So, I mean,
oh yeah, Matt has thoughts on that.
Didn't Steve Smith have him as the number 1?
Yeah, during the combine. During the combine, he did. I think we've spent enough time on a bad wide receiver. Let's talk about a bad running back. An overrated running back.
Well, I mean, I just think it's the landing spot. For one, I was surprised that the Texans went with Deonta Foreman when you already have, a poor Lamar Miller. So why go with another poor running back? But that's what they went with. Why not try to invest in a pass-catching back like a Jeremy Mcnichols or something like that? But I didn't like the landing spot. And I also, I'm not overly high on Deonta Foreman. He only had 1 year of production at Texas and a conference where I think we could put, Matt Kelley back behind that offensive line. I think he'd be able to pick up some yards, against the Big 12 defense. So I'm just not overly high on it.
12 defensive players were drafted in the 1st round.
Probably zero,
because I think only 8. I think only through the 6th round, only Alabama's team had more draft picks taken off the board than the Big 12 as a whole.
Yeah, the Big 12 is a fraudulent conference.
Yes.
Well,
it's hard to evaluate, right?
Well, they don't even have 12 teams, so they actually only have 10 teams. So, I mean, they're already a fraud there.
They're very fraud. And Dante Foreman's a total fraud because he only played in 10 games, and in those 10 games was receiving over 30 carries per game. So
yeah, which will never happen in the
compiler, much the way Cooper Kupp was a compiler.
And only had 7 receptions. I mean, obviously not a pass catching option.
One-dimensional pounder. That's not a guy that excites you in a PPR world that we live in. And now he's on the Texans. Oh my God, gross.
Yeah, man, I agree.
It's gross that Dalvin Cook's also on Minnesota. It's just as gross. I mean, Minnesota has an even worse run blocking offensive line and an even bleaker outlook on offense. So you don't want to land on a team that already has a nice satellite back in Jerick McKinnon, already has a big pounder in Latavius Murray. Now he's going to be getting the rest of the carries, the between the 20s carries for a team that doesn't score a lot of points and has the worst offensive line in football. Sign me up for that one. Bye, Dalvin. That's why I have Alvin Kamara ahead of Dalvin Cook.
Okay.
Get out of here with that.
I'll take that.
Well, Dalvin Cook is the hardest prospect to grade I've ever seen in my 1 week doing this. So, because all of his metrics are either 10th percentile or 90th percentile, and all the intangibles are bad. So the things I can measure are either great or awful. Agility score, awful. Burst score, awful. Speed score, great. Dominator, great. Efficiency, great. Receptions, great. Character, bad. Fumbles, bad. Led college football in fumbles. So if he gets put in a challenging situation, there's no offensive line, it's a demoralizing situation. The fumbles may end up being a problem. And the lack of agility behind an offensive line that can't run block is going to be a problem. On a team with wide running lanes, we talked about Oakland, Dalvin Cook could conceivably be the most productive rookie in this class in year 1. On a team without any kind of run blocking whatsoever that has very few red zone visits, oh, God, that's just terrible.
And that will be sharing time, right?
Scenario.
Yeah, it's not good. I agree with you. I wasn't as high on Dalvin Cook as most were, and then this landing spot is just not very good. Like people that
what could be
really
worse?
like him.
I mean, not even in fiction, not even I think it's the worst landing spot possible in the NFL, but in fiction, how could you build a worse landing spot for a running back? I mean, if we were writing a story that was going to for a book, a fictional story.
If you went behind Lev
we're
Bell.
in the writer's room and we're kicking around ideas. Okay, how can we create a scenario where this is the worst possible fantasy football landing spot for a rookie running back? Go.
If you got drafted behind Lev Bell, but even then, if Lev Bell gets hurt again, now all of a sudden you're talking about, an elite fantasy asset, most likely.
But that's not that. Even in fiction, they're not drafting a running back in the second round, so that's not even plausible.
Right. Well, and I was going to say that's the one thing that you can lean your hat on is his draft capital. Which
you lean on a hat.
Did I get some phrases mixed up there? I need your help.
Hang your hat. You can hang your hat.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
What do you lean on? What's the thing? What's the cliche where you lean on?
What do you lean on? A table?
I think I think this is just the something you lean on. Yeah, I think you lean on things generally, but then you were so eager for the cliche, you wanted to lean on something and add a hat.
I should have known to be careful.
So
yeah, I should have known to be careful with you around that.
But
yeah, it's the draft capital, man. It's the only thing that they can lean their hat on. Well. Let's transition into a little spiciness here because I want to talk about Juju a little bit, Juju Smith-Schuster. And look, I don't understand why everybody is so high on him, putting him in the mid-first round. And look, I will fully admit. Is this a
straw man? Who's doing that? Are you making this up?
No, I'm not making this up. DLF did a draft. Did a mock draft, right? I don't remember, but I believe he was pick 1.7. And maybe that's the only time that he's gone there, but I haven't had a chance to look at too many mocks, so that's what I'm going off of. But I feel like I've heard some hype too. Here. And I just don't get it, man, because look, he's going to be the third option at best in that offense in year one. Eli Rogers is still there. And again, I was going to say I have Martavis Bryant shares in Dynasty, so maybe I'm being biased there. But I think that his situation is completely different than Josh Gordon's from the standpoint that you have gotten, other than his tweet on draft night, which wasn't great, you have gotten positive news.
Ever since you didn't see that.
You didn't see? Oh, you were doing the show. Well, when they drafted Juju, he tweeted out, that is Sammy Coach replacement, not mine. I'm back, or something to that effect. Right. And then Sammy said something
love back. It.
And Mike Tomlin had to come in and tell them both to calm down. So, he's got the chip on his shoulder. He's a beast.
Wow.
And ever since he got suspended, I think, he's already reinstated. And it's just so funny, man, because before he gets reinstated, it's all positive. He's coming back. And as soon as he gets reinstated, now we got to turn negative again. And when is he going to mess up again and be gone? And I just don't think that's the case. I wouldn't bet on that. So Juju's the number 3 at best. And then he's the youngest player in the draft, right? So I think it's going to take him a couple years to pan out just from that standpoint and the opportunity standpoint. And then once he finally breaks out, Big Ben is going to retire. So the quarterback situation won't be set in any way, shape, or form at that point. So that's why I'm saying this was a pretty bad landing spot for Juju, and I don't understand the love.
I agree.
Yeah, no one likes that landing spot for him because Ben's going to retire soon. Ben can't practice. Once you can't practice, I actually talked to Tony Siragusa about this, and because he was, injured a lot and it was really tough and was on that Baltimore defense with a lot of aging veterans. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you make of this Ben Roethlisberger situation? He's like, this guy's not going to be in the league much longer. And I said, why? He's like, he can't practice. He's like, you can only play football so long without practicing at all.
What do you mean he can't practice?
He's in too much pain to practice.
Wow.
He hasn't practiced in 2 years.
Oh, man.
I didn't know
because
that.
He's had so many ankle problems and knee problems and hip problems and rib problems and shoulder problems. Like this guy, you look at the injury history, it is sad, really. It's right. I feel bad. It's morbid. It's wow. So I really think that he's just one of these football players that has an early retirement because he's just too many hits. I mean, you watch him play, right? You watch him play. He takes so much punishment. He does not go down. Eli Manning, if he gets touched, he's falling on the ground.
Absolutely.
You know,
I wouldn't be shocked if this is Big Ben's last year.
Elongating his career a couple of years. Whereas Ben Roethlisberger refuses to go down, and he's being twisted and pulled in all these directions to the point that now he can't even practice. And he's making a big deal in the offseason of this decision, whether or not he's going to come back or not. And I just don't believe that that's for effect. I don't believe that he's a drama queen. I think that he actually is considering retirement, and that it's next year or the year after he's going to actually pull the plug. And then where is Juju Smith-Schuster?
Yeah, in that case.
Perfect.
Well, congratulations.
Okay. So
yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster going into his third year breakout without Ben Roethlisberger. Shit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
could have had Alvin Kamara.
Nothing to do with him. Nothing to do with him. But a guy that I do want something to do with here is OJ Howard, who is in the most intriguing fantasy landing spot for me. We kind of had a conversation about this off air about how I thought that OJ Howard would be my first round pick. I don't know if I'd necessarily take him the 101 in rookie drafts, but I think that this guy has the ability of being one of the best tight ends in the league. And when you're talking about the tight end position and how top heavy it is, I think that it's so important, especially if you're in a league that's super flex or a league that's 2 tight ends, to go out and get this guy, because what they're doing in Tampa Bay, building up this offense, giving, Jameis the ropes to kind of, make it his own, and bringing in to kind of help them. I just think sky's the limit for this guy in his spot.
Yeah, no doubt. Everybody loves OJ Howard, even though Tampa Bay's got a lot of mouths to feed. But who's up next? Kevin's up.
Kevin's got it.
Anyone ever said a bad word about OJ Howard?
No.
Ever?
No.
Not me.
I've never heard a bad word about OJ Howard.
Prospect. Everybody loves him, and for good reason.
Not this guy. Oh, I mean, as in I haven't said a bad thing about him.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what?
As in I have not said a bad thing about him. Kev, you're up, bro.
Yeah, so my guy was Marlon Mack. I liked him going into the whole process, but once we came out of it knowing that he's landing in Indy behind a 34-year-old running back, I have no idea how Frank Gore continues to do it every year. I put my money on the table that he's going to – this is his last year. I'm going to do the same thing this year. And who else is there that could even be in his way besides the 34-year-old running back? What is it, Ferguson, that people are mentioning? I mean, that's a fallacy. And so for me, I love Marlon Mack. I've seen, I noticed on Player Profiler you have him comp to Todd Gurley, which obviously, Todd Gurley's in a terrible situation. Marlon Mack being in that offense, I think would be amazing. So I'm for me, like heading into the process, I think you could now talk about him easily in the second round, possibly even, in the first round, depending on how things go.
Love Marlon Mack. He's in my top 6. Why would you draft Dalvin Cook in a terrible situation when you can have Marlon Mack in one of the ideal situations? I mean, we talked about how it's a no-brainer to draft players on New Orleans. Well, the next best option is New England, Green Bay, Indianapolis. They're in the mix for that next level offense that you want your players to be a part of. You want volume, you want red zone work, and that's what Marlon Mack is going to get in Indianapolis. Frank Gore is an incredible outlier. I've never seen someone with this kind of mileage on the tires, carries, age. I mean, over 3,000 career touches at 34 years old. It's an incredible outlier in that I think there's very few, if any, other running backs that are age 33 or 34. Darren Sproles, but he has a fraction of the workload. The other running backs that are age 31 and 32 are also on their way out of the league. Jamal Charles is only 30, and we're not sure he's going to make it through training camp. So I think this is the year that Frank Gore finally relents and retires. I think he retires before the season is over because he cannot play football into perpetuity. It's just not going to happen. And he's either going to get injured or he's going to be so inefficient and ineffective this late in his career because he's lost all of his burst that they will have to relegate him. So he will either be relegated or retire or sent to injured reserve with a settlement at some point in his career, at some point this season. And that means it's going to be Marlon Mack go time.
Yeah, man. Top 6, that's hot, but I love it because I also liked him.
Top 6 running back overall.
Oh,
not
okay.
top 6. Because when you put Corey Davis in there, maybe he's number 7. But certainly a first-round pick. When we talk about if you can't trade your late first-rounders in Dynasty, throw your darts on the athletic running backs that landed on high-octane offenses. That's Alvin Kamara.
Yes.
That's Marlon Mack. That's the move.
And Mack has a chance to be a 3-down back to some extent.
Yes. His upside's much better than Kamara.
Yes, in the short term, right? Kamara's not going to have that path.
In the short term and the long term.
Yes,
Mack's a better player overall than Kamara. They're in a similar situation, but his role in the event of a Frank Gore injury is bananas. It's every down player for a prolific offense. That's RB1 material. It's instant RB1 if and when Frank Gore is relegated. That's why you have to draft Marlon Mack in the first round.
No love for Robert Turbin at all, then, huh?
Get out of here! Come on, child, please.
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah, and who was your guy for this one, Matt? I like this. I like this choice.
I lost my spot here. Oh, Chris Godwin.
Yeah, you know who it is.
Yes, Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
I was sorry. I was going to say Jeremy Mcnichols. I was on the wrong slot on the show sheet. That's me not being a professional. So Chris Godwin was intriguing because I believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could have the most prolific offense in all of football. Because if you look at the assets they've added, Deshaun Jackson stretching the field, O.J. Howard down the seam. Now they have Chris Godwin, who will be their slot receiver. It's going to be hard to beat slot receiver Chris Godwin. You look at his measurables on playerprofiler.com. You look at his age-adjusted production at Penn State. He may be the best slot receiver in the league the moment he sets foot on the football field this season. He should have been drafted in the second round at the latest. The fact that he made it to the third round was a crime. And he can have some productive weeks. I'm not saying he's a WR2. He can't. There's no way a single team can support 3 WR2s or 2 WR2s and 1 WR1 in Mike Evans. What I'm saying is that without an injury ahead of him, he will have plenty of useful WR3 weeks where you can play him as a cheap guy in daily, for example. But we know that Deshaun Jackson has missed a lot of games. And it's very possible at any point that Mike Evans could go down. This is a violent sport we're playing here. So if either of those two players goes down, he then becomes Corey Davis, essentially, right? He becomes a key member of one of the most prolific passing attacks with an ascending quarterback.
Yep.
So he will immediately be in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year with Corey Davis in the event of an injury ahead of him. And that's not far-fetched. So I think he has this moderate usefulness as a rookie with incredible upside. And then we know that Deshaun Jackson is a rental. So this is Dynasty we're talking about. So I love him in Dynasty in particular because he has such long-term attractiveness as the starting flanker opposite Mike Evans. I think they're going to be a tandem for many years to come. And if you think about this triumvirate of Evans, Godwin, and Winston for the next 5 years in fantasy football, it's so exciting. It's so intriguing.
Yes, totally agree. I'll just piggyback off you real quick just because he's my best Dynasty stash, so I don't have to talk about it later because I totally agree with you. He's not going to, see enough immediate opportunity to be a thing in year one. But his upside, as soon as Deshaun Jackson leaves, and again, he's 30, like you said, is so high in an offense tied to one of the best dynasty young quarterbacks. Jameis is only 23. OJ Howard, Mike Evans, they're all young. Once Godwin steps into a starter in that situation, his upside is so high, and that's why I love what you said there.
Well, you're up, Ben. Who do you have?
All right. So for me, it's Kareem Hunt for most intriguing, and kind of by far. They traded up to get him.
By far?
A little bit, yeah.
Kareem Hunt's the most intriguing by far? Yeah,
man. Yeah. Maybe a little hyperbole there, but look, I know if you go to playerprofiler.com, his page does not look all that great. I get it. And I like to merge the two, film and metrics. And yeah, Kareem Hunt's athletic profile does not look that great, but I love what I saw from him on film. I get that that's subjective, but also I love the landing spot because not only did they trade up to get him, but Andy Reid has had a ton of success. And I know these, have been very good backs, but he's had a ton of success with dual threat backs in his history. Brian Westbrook, LaShawn McCoy, Jamal Charles. He's had a 300-plus point PPR running back 5 times in his coaching history, and I think Kareem Hunt has the ability to do that. He can be a 3-down back, just like we talked about with Marlon Mack. Spencer Ware totally regressed last year with more workload, and so obviously there's not immediate opportunity there because you have to assume that Spencer Ware is still going to be the starter. If Spencer Ware gets hurt or if Kareem Hunt beats him out or, takes this job in a year or two, he could really pay dividends in Dynasty at a premium position, in my opinion.
I love it. I like Kareem Hunt. I like where he landed. Exactly what you said, Ben.
Yeah, it's the landing spot that really intrigues me.
Well, the thing I think that worries me a little bit is that I know as soon as Kareem Hunt got picked, like the hype train started on Twitter with everybody talking about him and hyping him up. But I don't know if I see him necessarily beating out Spencer Ware. I think that it's you're still hoping that Kareem Hunt is going to come in and beat out Spencer Ware. Spencer Ware started off great last year and fell off down the stretch, but I still have confidence in Spencer Ware. They're not paying Spencer Ware anything, so I mean that's not the issue. But I'm not fully on board with the Kareem Hunt's just going to come right in and take the job from Spencer Ware.
They're going to split touches. Kareem Hunt's going to be the satellite back by default. He's going to be the one catching most of the passes. But Spencer Ware is going to gain most of the carries. He'll be the one garnering the carries between the tackles, goal line carries. So he will likely outproduce Kareem Hunt in fantasy. Is that really up for debate?
No. If you want to go with opportunity, then I would lean Samaje Perine because I don't think Rob Kelley. I think he's a replacement level talent at best.
But Perine is bananas this year. I mean, it's on for Perine.
Love him, but I do think that there's something to be said for if Hunt gets that job, the upside that he could have in that offense. But I would agree with you that it's very minimal that he's just going to take the starting job outright with Spencer Ware there, at least in 2017.
Yeah, I think he's the replacement for Charkandrick West for now, and we'll see what happens. But most intriguing player in this draft, I mean, get out of here.
Yeah, I had the most intriguing player.
We're talking landing spot, man. So,
What would you take? Would you take Kareem Hunt in the first round of a dynasty draft?
No.
I would.
I would.
Yeah. Late first? Yeah, I would take.
League.
In a what league?
In a 20-team league. If you guys,
They had
are
those?
you guys running the numbers on how many players you're going to draft in the first round to get to Kareem Hunt? Come on.
Oh man,
well,
I love it.
Talking about most intriguing.
I like Kareem Hunt. I don't even like. I have plenty of guys I hate. I don't hate Kareem Hunt at all. But this is not a guy that's like inspiring the imagination, right? I don't talk to my daughter in the morning and say, "Hey, I know you don't like fantasy that much. I know it's football, but I got to tell you about this Kareem Hunt guy. I just can't stop thinking about him. He's landing spot, so intriguing. I mean, he's going to back up Spencer Ware. This is going to be.
It is to me, Matt. It is to me.
I mean, did you see what Charkandrick West did for that 3-game stretch in 2015? That could be Kareem Hunt. Oh wow, I'm excited.
Oh man, I love it.
Well, I mean, you guys all lose because I have the play with the most intriguing landing spots, and that is a combination of Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. But I like Aaron Jones better than Jamal Williams. There, I said it. I said it. Sorry, I remember watching this guy's tape, and I'm like, this guy. I think he was with who was it? Who was it? We had running backs on Evan Silva. Right before we, I think, signed off with Evan Silver, I was like, I just watched this young kid, Aaron, out of UTEP, Aaron Jones, and he's like, yeah, I saw him too. He was good. Woo! And then you go to playerprofile.com, and then I was surprised. College dominator, 95th percentile. College yards per carry, 97th percentile. Target share, 89th percentile. Spark, 50th. I mean, this besides the tape, another player that
are you taking notes, Ben? This is how you play the game.
Got the pen right here, bro.
So do I. I got a pen too. But yeah, I just I just like this kid. I like the landing spot. I think there's an opportunity there. Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones are different backs, in my opinion. Ty Montgomery's kind of in the Jones category, but I don't know. I like Aaron Jones. It's
injuries happen, buddy.
Yeah, injuries happen.
Yeah, injuries happen. Something happens to Ty Montgomery. Oh, it's game on.
Yeah, man. Just like Spencer Ware could get hurt, right?
That's true. Game on.
That's right. Game on in the Alex Smith offense.
Just for 1 year, right?
Alex Smith
Kevin?
was the quarterback for Jamal Charles too.
Mcgoats is going to be playing there next year. So
that does make it more intriguing, actually. That's a great point. I think Frank is bailing you out, Ben. If we project Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback, then the landing spot becomes a little more interesting.
Well, I'm upset I didn't get to that part in my notes thing.
For Kareem Hunt, yes, on page 7 of your generated notes.
Possibly just landed their quarterback of the future as well. I agree with you, Frank. I like it.
Nice. Thanks.
Good teammates.
Oh,
let's get to the YOLO reach segment so that Matt can come at me some more. I love it.
Where am I? Oh, the YOLO? Okay.
Let's get into the YOLO reach. Yeah, no, let's get right into it. So these are the players that you're just saying, heck with it. I'm gonna reach on them, even though their spot might not be ideal. Excuse me, Kevin. Again, that you're gonna reach on here. I don't know if it's much of a reach, but
he's not paying attention. He's watching.
No, I was not. No, I wasn't sure if that was me cutting out or him.
No, the other Kevin.
He started cutting out, so I wasn't sure if that was me or him.
The other Kevin.
No, I was paying attention. I heard what he said. And mine's Joe Mixon. I know that's not a huge reach talking about saying that you're really going to take him, but I would be intrigued to take him as first overall in a rookie draft. I know that's crazy, but I absolutely love his upside. 3-down back. I know the situation is not great in Cincinnati. Their offensive line is horrific, but I think, with some work, obviously I don't think it's a year one great spot for him, but I think, over time, I think he could really take off. I mean, we saw Le'Veon Bell his first year in Pittsburgh struggle and, take off his second year. So I love Joe Mixon. For me, I like he as my number one back in this class, and I have no problem with reaching on him.
Hey, I'm with you.
If you're gonna reach, go for a guy that you think is the best talent. Why not?
Yes.
Joe Mixon is an incredible talent, so justified.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Matt, you're up with your YOLO reach.
Here we go. My reach isn't really a reach because I never reach, because reaching implies that I have a flawed valuation system, which of course I do not have. All of my draft picks are fully optimized, and Jeremy Mcnichols is the one player in which my valuation differs greatest from consensus. So when you look at my valuation, my draft slot, where I'm going to be looking at Jeremy Mcnichols versus ADP consensus, that's where the differential is the widest, and I don't really understand it. I don't understand why he went in the 5th round, and I'm just going to trust the process, trust the numbers, trust the college dominance, trust the athleticism, and pushed the button on a guy that checks all the boxes and landed on, I think, the best spot for a running back because it's been vacated. Doug Martin has been a bust. I think it's official. Doug Martin is officially a bust. He has missed his ADP expectations in 3 of the last 4 years by a wide gap. I mean, he was essentially a redraft bust 3 of the last 4 years, and now he's suspended. Charles Sims was exposed as satellite back only, but even as a satellite back only, he's not as good as Jeremy Mcnichols, who was one of the best satellite backs we've seen in recent memory. So Jeremy Mcnichols lands on a team in which his talent profile is superior in all phases to all the running backs on the depth chart. So I think if it's a true competition, a merit-based competition in a meritocracy throughout training camp, throughout preseason, I think that he will rise up the depth chart and eventually take over as the primary back in one of the league's most prolific offenses. Lots of red zone carries, lots of pass attempts that will juice up his fantasy output, both between the 20s and in the red zone. It's all green lights flashing for Jeremy Mcnichols, with the exception of where he was drafted. But I don't take draft capital as much into account. Everyone else thinks draft capital is more important than I do, because draft capital essentially says, well, we trust the NFL scouts know what they're doing. And fuck if I'm going to trust NFL scouts to know what they're doing. Get out of here.
We already had the Cooper Kupp conversation. Yeah.
They fired their scouts the day after the draft. Their scouts knew they were going to be fired, and they weren't even trying. They were checked out the entire process. They just took the guy with the most counting stats, Zay Jones. And why even bother? I mean, some of these draft picks, as we were talking about in the beginning of the show, were completely illogical. So we have lots of quality players falling to the later rounds, and we have a bunch of these reaches in the early rounds because most NFL teams do not leverage numbers. They're just relying on a bunch of guys reporting back to the mothership what they think they saw one time watching a guy play football, and that's not good enough for me. So I'm not going to significantly discount Jeremy Mcnichols just because he went in the 5th round because some guy thought he saw a guy that didn't have great vision. Fuck that. He has fine vision, and it's only going to get better, just like David Johnson got better at the next level.
I love it.
And he could be huge in PPR, obviously. Great receiver, all of that. I love it too. We've talked
back in class. That's his real upside.
Yeah, and he was a workhorse in college, so there's that too. And then there was people tweeting that I think he was taken right around the same place as Jay Ajayi. We saw what he did last year, coming from the same team. So another reason not to take that draft capital 100% into consideration and let it
compare him to Dante Foreman, right? Dante Foreman was prolific, 2,000 yards in 10 games.
In
That's
1 year.
10-game sample. It's a very small sample. If a couple big games in a 10-game sample, it can skew everything. Jeremy Mcnichols scored 20-plus touchdowns in 2 consecutive full seasons at Boise State.
Yes.
That is a vastly different sample size than what we're talking about with a guy like Dante Foreman. If Dalvin Cook had landed in Tampa, it would be wheels up. Yep. Everyone would be celebrating Dalvin Cook, and everybody would be saying, the best running back in this class, or is it Leonard Fournette? It would be Fournette, McCaffrey, Cook, Fournette, McCaffrey, Cook, Fournette, McCaffrey, Cook, Fournette. No, you shut up.
100% it would be.
No one's talking about Cook as the best running back because he landed in Minnesota. That's how good that Tampa landing spot was. But this guy, Jeremy Mcnichols from Boise State, landed there, and it's all fart noises. Well, fuck your fart noises. Okay, you put your farts back in your anus.
I love it.
It makes sense.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
We're talking a lot. Yeah, we're talking a lot about the Bucs offense. Let's keep it going. I just really wanted to find the time to talk about OJ Howard because I love him. Pretty much sounds like as much as you. I just look in the 1 year I've been doing this. I feel strongly that he's going to hit. And look, we're talking about Dalvin Cook too, like quote unquote reach, right? Like for me, I'm not going to have a problem taking him over a guy like Dalvin Cook, just because I love the landing spot. I think Cameron Brate was a complete factor, fantasy factor due to circumstance last year, more so than talent. I think OJ Howard comes in there pretty much day one, and there's going to be some competition for opportunity, but shows that he's the better talent, first-round pick. Again, we talked about loving this offense. Jameis is 23. And, he loves to throw to the tight end. We saw that with Cameron Brate, and I think we're going to start to see that for Howard. And you just look at the state of the tight end position, and, it's not a premium position. I get it. But you could have a tight end one as early as year one, and then in a couple of years have a top 3, maybe even the best tight end in fantasy football.
Yeah, either O.J. Howard or David Njoku could be –
yes.
They could be the Jimmy Graham and Rob Gronkowski of 5 years from now.
100% on the same page.
Yeah.
All right, well, my YOLO reach, we're going to save time. Go back maybe 20 minutes and listen to what Matt said about Chris Godwin, and that's why he's my YOLO reach. On to you, Ryan.
Love it.
Nice. Oh, keeping it super short, Frank. Love that. And then, mine is going to be Marlon Mack. I mean, we talked about this guy just in the position that he's in to kind of carry the ball in the offense there for years to come. I would use a first-round pick on this guy if I'm picking, towards the mid-range of that first round. I would keep that pick stash or keep him to stash. Because I think that this guy is in an ideal spot. Speaking of stashing
comparables
players,
on playerprofiler.com, we don't just look at the workout metrics. We also look at college dominance and efficiency and the player's size, their stature, their BMI. 2 best comps, according to the algorithm, the closest comparables for Marlon Mack are Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon. That's
nice.
A fact. That's a fact.
Nice. I love that. And we talked about it with Evan Silva on the running back pod we did before the draft. I loved how in games the offensive staff would line him up out wide and throw him fly routes because whatever they saw in practice, they saw the athleticism. They wanted to get him the ball in numerous ways. And like you said earlier, you put that in Indianapolis. If Frank Gore isn't there, gets hurt or retires, that can hit in a big fucking way.
love that, man.
I think what happens is Frank Gore, halfway through training camp, looks over at Marlon Mack, just continuing to just rip through all these drills, and he's tired and he's hurting and he's demoralized, and eventually he just relents and he just says, "You know what, kid, go get him." I think that happens.
It's like that movie, like it's just like, here you go, kid.
Yeah,
knock him dead, kid. Go get him.
I see a lot of myself
passes the torch.
Kid. You take the football, go give him hell.
You got a lot of grit, kid.
Dying. It was like a war movie.
It's your time.
I had my time.
This is your time.
I love it.
Tell my fans I love them.
Well, one of the guys we beat into the ground here, Dalvin Cook. This is my dynasty stash, I think. Unfortunately, the Vikings, they also had a plethora of picks, and they only drafted 2 offensive linemen to go along with that shitty line that they have. So I'm just going to pick him and hope that to stash him for, years future, because I think this guy is a talent. I think that, they invested a pick in him by taking him, with their first pick in the draft this year at the 209, I believe. And I don't want to lose out on his ability at all. So I'm going to just hold out faith that they'll build up the offensive line in the future and put him in a good spot to succeed.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that, actually.
Boom.
Matt, I'm interested in yours here. Why don't you tell people about yours? This is
my best dynasty stash is Taywan Taylor.
Oh.
Yeah, Taywan Taylor is the guy to stash because, at first, doesn't look like he's going to get too much opportunity in year one, sort of like Chris Godwin, the number 3 receiver. He projects to supplant Tajay Sharp in year one. I think in training camp, just like Tajay Sharp impressed everyone with his 7-on-7 drill route running. Remember all those GIFs? Tajay Sharp.
He was the thing.
Yeah.
I recorded a video in real time of Tajay Sharp's reaction to the Titans drafting Corey Davis and Taywan Taylor. No! It's over! Yeah, it's over, buddy. It's over. So now Tajay Sharp's the number 4 receiver, and I project Taywan Taylor to be their slot receiver because Taywan Taylor is the ideal slot receiver, but he's a slot receiver plus. He's a slot receiver that can be a WR1 in fantasy in the right situation. And as it turns out, his college production profile and his college athletic profile are very similar to Doug Baldwin, who is another slot receiver plus with a mobile quarterback. As the years go on, I think that that's what Taywan Taylor will become. I think that eventually he is going to usurp Rashard Matthews as their number 2 receiver. I think in year 1, I think Rashard Matthews is safe as their starting flanker. But then I think that Taywan Taylor is going to move into that secondary role opposite Corey Davis. And because Marcus Mariota is going to continue to be more and more productive as they continue to allow him to throw the ball more and more, develop that trust every year that goes by, keeps being efficient, they reward him with more pass attempts, you're going to see opportunities for Taywan Taylor to be that, WR2 with, fringe WR1 upside like we saw with Eric Decker a couple years. That kind of player. I think that's what we're looking at with Taywan Taylor. He was just so productive at Western Kentucky.
Yes.
17.0 yards per reception in consecutive seasons. And this guy's putting up huge touchdown numbers, yardage numbers, super efficient. And just because he went to Western Kentucky doesn't mean that was necessarily a prolific offense. It wasn't. He just carried that offense in a way that even Doug Baldwin didn't carry Stanford when he was there. So he was actually more productive than Doug Baldwin at the college level, very similar athletically, and I can see him being a late bloomer in the NFL. Certainly if anything happens to Corey Davis, it's absolutely wheels up for Taywan Taylor. So that's why I'm stashing him. I'm stashing him because he's a high floor, high ceiling guy that's being overlooked because he's thought to be buried, and that's the perfect guy to stash in dynasty leagues.
Yes, love it. And I talked about Chris Godwin for similar reasons. So, Frank, let's get to yours because I can't wait to hear you wax poetic about this player.
This is the first time I've heard anybody talk about this guy. Now, especially on this podcast, Carlos Henderson is my stash player because I loved his tape. I loved everything about this guy. He ends up in a good position, right? He's their wide receiver 3. He's in Denver, right? So he's going to be on the field. He's a punt returner, kick returner. He's been productive. You go to his player profiler. He checks a lot of boxes with his metrics. You look at his tape. He's a gritty. I just love this guy. I love his tape. Just go watch him again on playerprofiler.com. Matt's kind enough to link us with his highlight clip as well as his metrics.
But we love Carlos Henderson, man.
At the bottom of the page, right? So, this is another player where his tape and his metrics combine to make a solid prospect. I love where he's at, and I'm stashing him because he will work his way into wide receiver 2. Hopefully, they get a quarterback, but they.
I love this idea of stashing him because this is another justification for a stash. In that we love the player in a vacuum, just like we love Godwin in a vacuum, and we love Taywan Taylor in a vacuum, but we have to stash them because they're buried. Well, actually, Carlos Henderson isn't necessarily buried because he is absolutely going to be the clear number 3 receiver on that team. The problem is they don't have a quarterback. They're stashing him in waiting for a quarterback because they have 2 aging wide receivers. They have 2 receivers that are past the age apex. So that's nice. All that really has to fall into place now is a quarterback. So if somehow, some way, Chad Kelley,
I was just about to say that.
Please
stop,
Mr. Irrelevant.
Stop doing weird things and extract his head from his own ass. Please. If that can happen, then I love Chad Kelley. If his behavioral issues are resolved, then we might be onto something. Or we wait till next year. One of these years, Denver hits a quarterback, and Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are out of the picture, or they're diminished a year or 2 from now. it's conceivable that Carlos Henderson is their number one option.
Right. Maybe they get like a Cortland Sutton next year too. Wow, look at that, Ben. Your ears perked up right there. A Cortland Sutton next year, Carlos Henderson, and maybe a quarterback.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah, and like we said, based on where you can get Chad Kelley in like Superflex leagues, there's another dynasty stash for you right there. Little risk, a lot of high upside.
It's true.
Kev, what you got for us, man?
Yeah, I mean, while you're wasting away taking Chad Kelley, you can go ahead and take the best quarterback in this class, and that's Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, we've talked about this a ton on the show, the draft shows, with everything that what's been going on. But I absolutely love this spot for Patrick Mahomes. I was praying that the Chiefs would take him. They did me right and did me a solid and traded up to grab this guy. I think, obviously, so you're not going to get anything for him. And I think a lot of people are going to take Deshaun Watson because, he has a clear path to year one relevancy.
Big mistake.
Patrick Mahomes, I totally agree. But Patrick Mahomes has a much, much, much higher ceiling. So for me, I love Patrick Mahomes. I think with Andy Reid, I think with a year of waiting, behind Alex Smith for that 1 year, I think Patrick Mahomes has the highest upside in this class.
Totally agree with you.
McGoats.
Love that. And of course, Kev, anytime he gets the time to talk about Patrick Mahomes, he loves it. Before we end the podcast, guys, it's not going to be a post-draft podcast unless we touch on a team that missed out on the position that you thought they were going to hone in on during the draft. I'll start with mine just to kick it off. Mine was the Detroit Lions not drafting a running back. I thought that they had a lot of questions there. You got Amir Abdullah coming off injury. We don't really know is running the ball there, who's going to take it upon themselves. They say Abdullah is going to be that guy, but it just to me seemed like the perfect opportunity for them to kind of get one of these guys, especially when you see them keep falling and falling and falling, to kind of swoop up one of those guys in the mid-round draft. So I would have liked to see them pick one up.
I'm going to go next because mine's is easy. Giants, Minnesota, no offensive linemen. They suck. Well, the Giants traded up in the 6th round to pick an offensive lineman. But anyway, they need that, and that's about it.
I'll piggyback off you guys because mine's extremely easy as well. The Ravens did not draft a wide receiver at all. There's 200 targets up for grabs with Steve Smith, Kamar Aiken, and Kyle Juszczyk all gone. Danny Woodhead can only soak up so many of those. I don't think enough people realize that the Ravens threw literally the most pass attempts in the league last year. And here's the craziest part about it. In MFL 10 ADP right now, Mike Wallace is wide receiver 55 and Perryman is wide receiver 56. Bye.
Yeah, both of them. And maybe, just maybe, it's possible.
I know where you're going.
In the slot.
Yeah, baby.
Oh,
sign him to a contract. They signed him to an extension. They did that.
I love this kid.
Campanaro.
He's Italian.
Name to remember.
The little bell.
Remember.
The little bell.
Yeah, people are comping Cooper Kupp to Julian Edelman. Get out of here. It's not close to that level of athlete, but Michael Campanaro is.
Hey, man, if Adam Humphries can be, relevant at times last year due to circumstances and opportunity, why can't Campanaro?
Besmirch the good name of Michael Campanaro by comparing him to Adam Humphries.
I'm saying he's got higher upside. That's the point.
Well, of course he has higher upside than Adam Humphries.
I apologize,
Every player in the NFL with a pulse has a higher ceiling than Adam Humphries.
That's it right there.
I mean, aim high in life, Ben Cummings. Come on.
I'm just saying, if he can be relevant, then why can't Michael Campanaro, who is more athletic?
Who's better? Who's better than Adam Humphries? I've started Adam Humphries in some flex spots when I've had some bad luck at wide receiver. So,
but I apologize for besmirching his name, Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Eli Rogers is better comparable. If you're thinking about slot receivers, I think Eli Rogers, Michael Campanaro is fair. But Michael Campanaro is an athlete, and I'm very excited to see what he does in that offense. I'm excited for that offense in general because there's just a lot of value there. We don't know who the tight end's going to be, so that's intriguing. Right. We don't know who the starting running back's going to be in week 1 because Kenneth Dixon was suspended. Kenneth Dixon himself will be a value because I think he'll be the starter when he comes back. So we have Terrence West is technically a value. Kenneth Dixon's a value. I mean, every player in this offense, with the exception of Joe Flacco, essentially is a value because Joe Flacco's never a value, ever, ever, ever.
I don't know why you guys hate Joe Flacco. He's elite. I don't get it.
Elite.
Ever. But Kevin had a good one. Eagles running backs.
I was actually shocked that they didn't go running back here. I know
Shocked.
they needed
I'm
corner.
with you, Kevin. Let's do a fist bump through the computer. Shocking.
I just couldn't believe it. You know, you have Ryan Matthews who just can't ever stay on a football field. And then, you know, they were linked to every running back, free agent running back over the offseason. And the draft comes, and they don't even take a shot on anybody. And the only running back they take a shot on is a replacement for Darren fucking Sproles. So I have no idea what Philadelphia was doing. I know they needed help on the defensive side of the football, especially at corner, but not taking a shot on any of these running backs like a Jeremy Mcnichols or a Marlon Mack or any of these guys that would have been there is a travesty to me.
You know, it's insanity. Howie Roseman has been doing some curious things in his second stint. I thought it was really good in his first stint as the general manager. Curious things in his second stint, trading up for Carson Wentz. Ugh. But I have some breaking news for you guys. I have to break in with some breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we need a drop.
McDonald's has just unveiled its newest product,
Ugh.
the French fry fork.
Okay. I saw that on
Right?
It's a piece of plastic, and you wedge 3 French fries in it, and it acts as a fork.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
So
but
you
how
eat
is
with French fries, and then you eat the fork, and then you reload and you eat, and you reload and you eat. It's amazing.
you tried it?
Eating utensil. This just came out. It was just released.
Wow.
I want to go to McDonald's tonight.
I guess.
I just prefer to use my hands.
Fries?
Oh, they're so good.
What? I think there's one thing we can all agree on. It's that McDonald's fries are good. And
Yes.
we like
So
OJ
The
Howard.
best.
And we like OJ Howard.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
like
baby.
OJ Howard and McDonald's
fist bump
fries.
that.
I mean, if you don't like OJ Howard and McDonald's French fries, I question your right to be a
Sanity.
citizen of this country.
Boom. If you take anything from the pod, let it be that. Oh, my Lord.
Oh, the thing for this game that's that's gone on way too long is way too many but I think an expert in gaming would have said that we went about 7 questions too long on this. But the most notable team that didn't address a position of need, I mean, does it get any worse than the Jacksonville Jaguars not drafting a single quarterback? Take a shot. Take a shot on a quarterback. That's the move. If you don't have an Andrew Luck in the draft, just take shots on the late round quarterbacks. Take shots on the Chad Kelleys late. Take shots on the Nathan Petermans late. You don't know. You don't know. No one
Or
knew
Davis Webb.
Dak Prescott would be Dak Prescott. Just take shots on guys.
Right.
Late. What are you
Should have
doing?
taken Davis Webb,
Saying,
so the
okay,
Giants wouldn't have
fine.
taken Davis
We're
Webb.
good with the Blake Bortles. We're just going to stay pat. Yeah, we're good. Blake Bortles is fine. We're good. Doing
I don't know. It's
Coughlin, man.
it's
Coughlin,
Coughlin.
Coughlin.
I will always defend Coughlin. So I'm a
I know, you
Homer
have this
Giants
weird
fan.
nostalgia.
I
for
do. It's
Tom
nostalgia.
Coughlin.
It's
he
a
made you
hard.
feel good at one point. It's like an
He did.
ex-girlfriend. He made you
Twice.
feel good, and you'll never forget that
I
feel
will
good.
never. I love you, Tom.
And true fit.
Of course.
Yeah, he is a
course.
feel good,
I
man.
mean, I'm a Giant fan. Of course. Every Giant fan loves Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
Can't take it away. It happened. The sex happened, and it was
It
great.
happened. It's just, and there's nothing we can do about it. You know, it happened.
You don't want to do anything about
No.
it. It's great memories.
Perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Got some hardware out of the deal.
Yeah.
Twice.
Wow, you did it twice.
The end of the
See?
games, right?
Wow.
We wrapped
Tom
it up.
Coughlin in his younger days. Woo! Hot.
That's a win. That's a win. All right, guys. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it up for the show. Man, Matt Kelley, thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Wrapping it up, we have 10 more questions to go. 10 more stock up, stock down questions.
Erase this. Erase this. Bang.
Matt, what are you talking
Erase
about?
that. Bang. Erase it all. No more questions.
Man, if you
I'm
guys
with you.
aren't following Matt Kelley, you can do so on the Twitter machine at fantasy_mansion. All right. My name, Ryan Williams. You can find me on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. Ben Cummins at Ben Cummins FF. Dynasty Frank at Dynasty Frank. And then Kevin Steele at Fantasy Raf 13. We thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Post Draft Podcast. We're going to be back next week before we go on hiatus for a little bit. And so that'll be great. Again, you guys can check us out. We are on Slack now. Go to our Twitter at FF Authority to find information on how to join in on that. We got good stuff going on with the podcast here. Dynasty Live podcast is still going on. All great stuff. So thank you guys for tuning in. Rate and review. We appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.
That's a good show.